Bom dia, good morning everybody. É com grande prazer que damos início ao primeiro encontro do ciclo Poesia, o Meio Dia, que acontecerá todas as últimas quartas-feiras do mês, com o objetivo de compartilhar a poesia de autores irlandeses, sejam do passado quanto do presente. A cátedra foi fundada em setembro de 2009 por meio de um convênio entre a USP e a Embaixada da Irlanda, e iniciou suas atividades em março de 2010. Nosso querido professor Alfredo Bozzi inaugurou a cátedra com uma belíssima palestra intitulada "A poesia é ainda necessária?". Gostaria, portanto, de dedicar este primeiro encontro à memória de nosso querido mestre, lendo umas breves passagens da abertura dessa palestra, que foi publicada no nosso livro da Cátedra Lectures 2010. Ele diz: quem pergunta sobre a necessidade da poesia poderá estar experimentando uma falta e provavelmente um sentimento misto de saudade do que terá passado sem retorno e angústia por um presente cujo futuro é ainda enigma. No entanto, durante milênios e certamente muito antes da invenção da escrita, a poesia habitou entre os homens para seu encantamento e consolo. Identificando-se com a linguagem dos primeiros homens, a poesia lhes deu o abrigo da memória, os tons e as modulações do afeto, o jogo da imaginação e o estímulo para refletir e às vezes agir. O professor Bozzi afirma no final dessa introdução, e antes de iniciar um caminho pela reflexão de por que a poesia é ainda necessária, ele diz, e abro aspas, ainda há quem sinta a magia de um verso musical, o esplendor de uma imagem luminosa, ou a melancolia do poema que fale de um bem para sempre perdido. A poesia sobreviveria não só no ato de ressignificar, e não raro reencantar pessoas, coisas e eventos, mas também ao recolher-se em si mesma, palavra que se dobra sobre a palavra. Fecho aspas. Portanto, a pergunta ainda persiste. Afinal, a poesia é ainda, hoje, necessária? Acho que todos responderemos que ela é ainda mais necessária em tempos como vivemos hoje, em que falta compreensão, solidariedade. A poesia traz, segundo disse o professor Bozzi, encantamento e consolo. É um estímulo para refletir e para agir. O objetivo desses breves encontros ao meio-dia é justamente para reviver esse encantamento da palavra que nos motiva a agir. Hoje será por meio da poesia de William Butler Yeats, e esses poemas estarão depois disponíveis no site da cátedra. Por esse motivo, eu gostaria hoje de apresentar a vocês a inspiradora desse ciclo de poesia ao meio-dia, que é Susan Lennon Hoy. Hi, Susan. It's really a great pleasure to have you with us and to be you the leader of this cycle of poetry at midday. Susan Hoy hails from Ballina, County Mayo, where she grew up as the eldest of a family of 5 children. From an early age, she discovered poetry and participated in the local feis, which is a traditional Gaelic arts and cultural festival involving music, poetry, and dance. While still at school, Susan took courses and completed examinations in speech and drama, and later completed a diploma in speech and drama with London School of Music. She studied English in the National University, English literature, while training to become a primary school teacher in the National University of Ireland. And being from the west of Ireland, she has always loved the poetry of William Butler Yeats. So Susan is now married to the ambassador of Ireland to Brazil and lives in Brasilia. So welcome, Susan, and the floor is yours. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Laura. Boa tarde, todos e todas. I'm delighted to be here today to share some of my love of poetry with you all, and especially to present it as the spoken word. As Laura was saying, as a child, I was encouraged by my mother and teachers to participate in our local feis, those festivals of poetry and song and dance held every year. And they were held every year in towns all over Ireland. And every year I learned poems and recited them in competitions with hundreds of other hopeful participants, and actually managed to amass a few trophies and medals. So a lot of those poems actually, as I come from County Mayo, which is very near Sligo, a lot of the poems that I started off reciting were by William Butler Yeats. And I'm delighted today to be able to share some of my favourites with you. The first poem I have chosen is a poem called The Host of the Air. And this is a poem from the early work of Yeats, published in 1899 in his collection of poetry called The Wind Among the Reeds. This poem is an English version of an old Gaelic ballad, which the poet heard sung and translated in a small town in Balsadare, County Sligo. In the original poem, at the end, O'Driscoll, who is the husband, finds mourners weeping for his wife when he comes home. And this poem, it reflects these superstitions we have in Ireland. They were called pishrogues. They were superstitious beliefs of the people of the country at the time. Sometimes it was believed that the host of the air stole brides just after they were married, perhaps like a blast of wind. Slua gay is the Irish word for it. And Yeats believed very much in these superstitions, and he wrote a small account of this poem in an article published in Scots Observer in 1889, sorry. And this was the story that Yeats told about this poem himself. Some 5 miles southward of Sligo is a gloomy and tree-bordered pond, a great gathering place of water and fowl, called, because of its form, the Heart Lake. It's haunted by stranger things than heron, snipe, or wild duck. Out of this lake, as from the white square stone in Belbulben, issues an unearthly troop. Once men began to drain it, suddenly one of them raised a cry and saw that his house was in flames. They turned round and every man saw his own cottage burning. They hurried home to find that it was just fairy glamour. To this hour, on the border of the lake is shown a half-dug trench, the signet of their impiety. A little way away from this lake, I heard a beautiful and mournful history of a fairy kidnapping. I heard it from an old woman in a white cap who sings to herself in Gaelic and moves from one foot to the other as though she was remembering the dancing of her youth. A young man, going at nightfall to the house of his just married bride, met in the way a jolly company, and with them his bride. They were fairies, and they had stolen his wife for the chief of their band. To him, they seemed like only a company of merry mortals. His bride, when she saw her old love, bade him welcome, but but was most fearful lest he should eat the fairy food, and so be glamoured out of the earth and into that bloodless dim nation. So she set him down to play cards, and the three of them, with three of the cavalcade of fairies, and he played on, realising nothing until he saw the chief of the band carrying his bride away. Immediately he knew they were fairies. And when he came back to his home, he found that his bride had died some time before he came. And that's the whole story behind this poem, which I'm going to read you now. And it's called The Host of the Air. O'Driscoll drove with a song the wild duck and the drake from the tall and tufted reeds of the drear Heart Lake. And he saw how the reeds grew dark at the coming of night tide, and he dreamed of the long dim hair of Bridget, his bride. He heard while he sang and dreamed a piper piping away, and never was piping so sad, and never was piping so gay. And he saw young men and young girls who danced on a level place, with Bridget his bride among them, with a sad and a gay face. The dancers crowded about him, and many a sweet thing said, and a young man brought him red wine, and a young girl white bread. But Bridget drew him by the sleeve, away from the merry bands, to the old men playing at cards with a twinkling of ancient hands. The bread and the wine had a doom, for these were the host of the air. He sat and played in a dream of her long dim hair. He played with the merry old men and thought not of evil chance, until one bore Bridget his bride away from the merry dance. He bore her away in his arms, the handsomest young man there, and his neck and his breast and his arms were drowned in her long dim hair. O'Driscoll scattered the cards and out of his dreams awoke. Old men and young girls were gone like a drifting smoke. But he heard, high up in the air, a piper piping away. And never was piping so sad, and never was piping so gay. So that, as I was saying, was one of Yeats's early poems and written while he was a young man. My next choice is the poem Sailing to Byzantium, which was written when Yeats was in his early 60s, more reflective of where I am now. Yeats was leaving behind the world of young love and romantic thoughts, and he was thinking about what we all have to face at the end of our lives, looking back, hoping that he had achieved something and that there was something left behind, something of value that he would be remembered by. And in this poem, in early Irish tradition, there was a type of narrative which was known as an imram. And this was like a sea voyage in which the hero or the saint sails from the west to find earthly paradise. And Yeats adopts this notion in the next poem I'm going to read you, except he abandons Ireland not for the West, but for Byzantium and the East. And Yeats admired 6th century Byzantium for its wonderful artistry, and he had a fantasy of spending a month of antiquity there. It represented for him the ideal place as he raged against old age. The concept stands for this new concept that Yeats had was, as he entered into this golden age of his writing, a concept which stands for an idea where the world and its inhabitants lived in peace and harmony. And we find stability politically in society where great achievements and discoveries take place. And economically, this time holds prosperity and abundance. So, as I'm probably on my own journey now towards Byzantium, looking for those wonderful places, I'm going to share this poem with you. It's supposedly one of his greatest poems ever written. And it was published in a book of poetry called The Tower. That is no country for old men, the young in one another's arms, birds in the trees, those dying generations at their song. The salmon falls, the mackerel crowded seas, fish, flesh or fowl, commend all summer long. Whatever is begotten, born and dies, caught in that sensual music, all neglect, monuments of an aging intellect. An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hands and sing and louder sing, for every tatter in its mortal dress. Nor is there singing school, but studying monuments of its own magnificence. And therefore I have sailed the seas and come to the holy city of Byzantium. O sages standing in God's holy fire, as in the gold mosaic of a wall, come from the holy fire, burn in a gyre, and be the singing masters of my soul. Consume my heart away, sick with desire and fastened to a dying animal. It knows not what it is, and gather me into the artifice of eternity. Once out of nature, I shall never take my bodily form from any natural thing, but such a form as Grecian goldsmiths make, of hammered gold and gold enamelling, to keep a drowsy emperor awake, or set upon a golden bough to sing to lords and ladies of Byzantium of what is past or passing or to come. Thank you. We're going to finish up and leave you with a rendition of one of my very favourite of Yeats's poems. It's a poem called September 1913. And this is a poem which was actually written in September 1913, and it reflects that time period in Irish history. Yeats acknowledges his own dismay at the turn away from old Ireland, which was built on the romantic ideals of his past. And Ireland then was turning towards a more pragmatic, new, and more culturally devoid Ireland. I suppose the bloody events of 1916, which happened afterwards, would consolidate Yeats's worst fears, which were that romantic Ireland's dead and gone, it's with O'Leary in the grave. You'll hear this refrain in at the end of each of the stanzas in Yeats's poem. John O'Leary, he was an Irish patriot who was sentenced to 20 years of penal servitude in 1865, although he was freed 4 years after his conviction on condition that he didn't return to Ireland until the 20 years of his agreed sentence had passed. And so he became an exile. But Yeats knew O'Leary, who acted as a sort of a mentor and a father figure to Yeats. O'Leary was an extremely cultured man who knew a great deal about history and folklore of Ireland. And of course, we all know Yeats, that was an area of huge interest to Yeats as well. And so this explains the significance of O'Leary in the poem. This is a beautiful rendition of that poem, and it's the music is by Enda Riley and Stephen James. And we're going to leave you with that. But before I end, I would like to really thank Laura and all those involved in the Yeats Chair for this opportunity. I'd like to thank all of you who are listening out there for your interest in this event. We're only starting up, and hopefully we will grow as we move along. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next month, and I hope you all join with us again. So I'm going to hand you over now to Laura, and she is going to play our very last poem for us, September 1913.
Thank you, Susan, very much for your reading. I thought that you were also going to read 1913 for us. And then in case someone would like to say, the comments are appearing here, and in case you want to ask questions, but you see, the idea is exactly to have this experience of listening to you, listening to the poems, and having this encantamento, as Professor Bossi says in his brilliant lecture for the opening of the chair, the inauguration of the chair in 2010. But Susan, would you like me to play directly the music? I can do that.
I'm happy to give you a rendition of the poem if you would like me to before we do it.
Yes, perhaps.
If I can find it here in my book.
Don't worry, because people are enjoying your voice and you're reciting the poem, so that's why then we can listen to the music if you feel fine.
Yes. Well, look, let me just see if I can find it here now. September 1916. This is middle work.
Yes.
Responsibilities, I think it was in. No,
don't worry.
It's not jumping out at me here now. Okay, so if you want, to
play,
go ahead.
Yes,
yeah, you go ahead and play it. Yes, because it's a very nice rendition.
Right. Yes, it's a wonderful presentation also of the poem. Bear with me. I will try to share the screen now. Share screen, and then I have to open first. Sorry. Compartilhar. And now let's see where it is. Am I sharing the screen now? I do not know. Anna, can you tell me if people are seeing my screen? Just through WhatsApp, because I cannot see you. Okay, so I will start playing.
I need you moving the sense. I'm fumbling and racing till I'm at the half pence to the pence and rare to shivering rare. You did try tomorrow from the bone. For men were born to pray and say. Romantic Ireland, it's dead. They're only in the grey. Romantic Ireland's dead. Dance with only in the grey. Yet they were all a different kind. The names that still your childish play. They have got about the world like winds. But little time, they to pray. For whom that hangman's rope was spun, and what God help us could they say? Romantic Ireland, it's dead and gone down. It's without you in the grey. Romantic Ireland's dead and gone. It's without you in the grey. Was it for this the wild geese spread their grey waving on every tide? For this that all that blood was shed. For this Edward Fitzgerald died, and Robert Emmett, and Wolfe Tone, and all the delirium of the brave. Romantic Ireland, it's dead and gone. It's with O'Leary and in the grave. We turn those years again and call those exiles as they were in all their loneliness and pain to cry someone's yellow hair as maddened every mother's son. They wait so like what they gave. Let them be there, dead and gone. There with no Leary in the grave. I'll let them be there, dead and gone. They're totally in the grey.
Okay, how do I stop this, Anna? I do not know how to do this now. Okay, so I think that this has been a wonderful ending to listen to the music and chosen by Susan. And Susan, please, if you are here on the floor, just to say goodbye to everybody. This is the idea of having a very short but nice encounter at midday, and the next one will be on the 30th of June. So we'll wait for you here and to listen to Susan again. She is the inspiring person for starting the chair this kind of encounters. Thank you very much to all of you who were attending us, and hope to see you all next month then. Bye bye. Susan. Okay, there you are. Thank you. Thanks, Susan.
Great. Fantastic. Bye-bye, everyone.
Right.